All right, welcome to Intro to Mercedes-Benz Diagnostic Diagnostics. So this is the first diagnostic tool Mercedes-Benz really made. You can see we got a genuine part number on it, roughly beginning around when the 124 chassis came out. That was an E-Class, basically made from around 84 up to about 95. These cars, they're still on the road today, and this impulse counter is pretty useful. On those cars when you need it. If you're in a tight spot and you're looking at to blink codes out on some other cars, that can be done with like an LED test light. But if you're working on some of this older stuff, having the older technologies is always good to have. When you're using that impulse counter, this is basically what you were going to reference. So having these diagnostic manuals was really, really invaluable. This is what they look like. They typically live with the oldest guy in the shop. But again, when you're working on this older stuff, it's really good to have. Having the book is going to have more than anything. But if you don't have them and you can't get a hold of them, once you log on to Mercedes-Benz, our ISP portal, and we'll get to that in a minute, you can go through diagnostic info and hit another little tab that says launch manual. And here you can see we have a 124, 129. We have all these chassis numbers here. And this was really invaluable to use with that impulse counter. So you would basically click on there, and either you were using the blink code, that impulse counter, or the handheld tester or HHT, and you would be able to get here, choose the vehicle, and you'll see as we step through. In this case, it looks like we're on a 124 here after we've selected and picked our vehicle, our chassis. And then we can start to see these different groups show up. Now, so over here we see engine, for example. We have some basic testing and some troubleshooting information. So as we go through here, if you see on the top left, you kind of follow it down a little bit. It even tells you like engine control module, socket 8, EACCISC is socket 14. So it's telling you where those pins are that you can plug that guy in to be able to use your impulse counter. Again, if you're working on these older cars, it's invaluable information and it's pretty decent quality. The paper mailing, the books will always win, but it's way better than having nothing. Let's say we went over here and we went to pick, we had a code number 3 on our diagnostic trouble code. It would take us to page 23, step 3. So what you would do is you would click on that little 23 and the little double line with the arrow, and it would take you to that 3.0 step. Here you can see in the top left corner, you're on 3.0, and what that's going to do is it's going to give us some, erase your DTCs or check the wiring, possible control module, whatever the result may be, or go to the next step to get to the next fault test path. What do we got over here, Andrew? What am I looking at? What is this thing?
This is the HHT or handheld tester. It's like the original Mercedes scan tool, and it also was the first time that they integrated the faults in their test information or their descriptions. You can see the buttonology that continues to present day, the F1, F2 on there.
Yep.
And it also was the introduction of 9-digit coding and version coding.
Right. So again, impulse counter, you need the paper manual or diagnostic manuals to be able to see what you got because it's just a number. Now you're getting a fault description. So we're talking about cutting edge technology back in the day, right? Again, you can see we got a little socket box, a little breakout box there, and I'm just going to stress this one more time. You're working on this older stuff. A lot of these tools are very, very important to have. As far as like socket boxes, breakout boxes. Andrew, on some of these older cars, how are those modules installed?
Face down.
Face down, gotta love it. So all the pins are on the bottom. I don't have socket boxes, so I'm gonna start pulling it apart and back probing, and just it's an absolute mess when you get to some of the things. You can work ahead of it, but on some of these cars, depending on how involved you're getting, especially like if you're on like a V12 where it's 3 separate harnesses. Those socket boxes are very, very helpful to try and get you through that vehicle in a very more efficient amount of time. Over here, This was when we started seeing a little more integration. So the ThinkPad kind of it revolutionized our diagnostics by moving to a PC-based platform and integrating that diagnostic guidance and the test path in the tool, right? So before we're using HHT and it's got it's got fault description, but now we're getting a little more. Andrew, what else were we getting with our DAS, or our Diagnosis Assistance System?
SCN coding.
SCN coding, so software calibration number. You started seeing that about 03, right?
Yeah, right around row 3.
Right. So again, we're going from blink codes to just numbers to starting on description to 9-digit, and now we're getting that software calibration number. The entire tool was referred to as the SDS, the Service Diagnosis System. So if everybody starts talking about the SDS or this they're referring to the Mercedes-Benz tool. It kind of, it was a nickname for it, even referring to some of the older stuff. Now, if I've got this, I see a bunch of cables there, Andrew. It looks like I've got 38 pin, which is good. I see 16 pin, but what else am I looking at here?
That would be the CAN tool, the SD scan tool.
Right. And the other thing on this is that we have some backwards compatibility with the tool. So if you're looking, we've got just a small tool. We've got 38 pins. We've got just a little individual plugs. So Mercedes-Benz was pretty decent about being able to go ahead and go backwards. Now there's been various versions of the tool. And again, the multiplexer that we're looking at here, I mean, we're talking, it got bigger before it got smaller. Andrew, where can I put this thing? I see it's got a strap on it. Can I just hang that on the side view mirror?
Don't recommend it.
So you could, but if somebody was backing out of the garage and they nicked it and the side view is a little loose, if that thing dropped, that ruins your day, because on these older ones, everything was in the multiplexer. So if it drops, you're up a creek without a paddle. I recommend just throw that guy on the seat or on the floor and just run the cable through. If we're looking at our, again, this is part of that backwards capability that we're talking about. So this is on using the SDS, and we're on an older car, and we're launching our HHT, or in this case, HHT for win, right?
Yeah.
If we get in here, we look out in the center, that's how we're going to enter. And then again, we're going to look at that F1, F2 buttonology, and we'll get into that later on too, as we through the presentation. Over here, here's an example of what a dot screen looks like. Looks like we're on a 220 chassis. Quick test that they refer to it. Not exactly a quick test. Even with the factory tool, it can take some time. So again, as we, if you see that's highlighted in blue on the bottom of the page here in diagnostic info, that's what we talk to as far as our launch manual. Another thing that we see here is under our diagnostic info is OBD DTCs. So again, just another good source of information. If we go through here, again, this is using our diagnostic info under our ISP portal, or independent service provider portal. We'll get to that. As we go here to type in our code. So if we're using our Impulse or HHT and we started wanting to go through and learn how to test it, right? Before that integration, you're so used to going through the manual or going through and searching through on the computer. Once that the ThinkPad came out and DOS was introduced, a lot of those tests were on the tool. But again, still a really good source of information. If you look at the top right there, it looks like we're searching for a code 1200. You can also type in just a word search. So if you type in boost, a bunch of stuff with boost is going to come up. Over here, it looks like we're on an ME97 or Motor Electronics 9.7. We're searching for that 1200 code. And it looks like we have our Mercedes-Benz diagnostic trouble code and the generic code. And now we have our description. If you click on it and keep on clicking that orange arrow, it's going to go to the next step. So most times you're going to have useful information here. It may even have some test steps for you. As time went on, this is what you saw. Okay, so you'd get communication with the ECU, or electronic control unit, is required. So when it dead ends here, this is where Mercedes-Benz was really shifting a lot of their diagnostic advice into the tool. Okay, and even for emissions, So they've argued a long time that if you have our tool, you have the answer. I would say, for the most part, they're not wrong. It is a very comprehensive tool, and it does have a lot of good test steps in it and information as well. After we have our DOS on our SDS, Xentry finally wound up debuting, and we see it on our Panasonic tablet. When you got the kit, it looked something like this. What I would tell you is, looks like we've got, again, what are we looking at these cables here, Andrew? We're not looking at just brand new stuff, right?
Yeah, we've got backwards compatibility, and we've also got the Xentry CAN diagnostic tool there,
Perfect.
but not the scope.
Not the scope on this one. Again, it's pretty well set up, and we'll show you that in a minute as well. When you get your tool, there will be a sticker on the box, and there's going to be a sticker on the back of the tool. Make sure that they match before you do anything with it. So once you get it, you want to make sure that everything's there. So if you do inquire a problem, everything matches up and you're not starting off like way behind. The other thing is, this is what we're dealing with now. We went away from Panasonic, or at least Mercedes-Benz did. Now it's on a WinMate. There's a lot of things that are Mercedes-Benz is proud of. If you look at that multiplexer, it's real small now compared to the other one. They're proud that they've taken all their tooling, all their information, and it's now back on the tool, right? Or in the cloud, depending on what you're doing. And it's moved away from the multiplexer. To be honest with you, I don't care where it is, whether it's in the multiplexer or if it's in the tool, as long as it works. But this is typically what you're looking at. It seems to work pretty good. Don't have a lot of issues with it. Sometimes the multiplexer can drop its Bluetooth here and there, but it's not so problematic that I always have to have a wire on it just for that. I typically do keep the cable on it just because it's old habits, but you don't need to. Over here, we're looking at Mercedes-Benz like to use Pico. It used to be Herman. Herman's kind of gotten a little outdated, and Pico just seems to be the wave. You can get when you order your tool, you can specify how you want it, and you can actually get it with the Pico scope. It is sold as an add-on. What's cool about it is that you can open it up right from over here, as you see it's surrounded in the red there, and it will launch it right from the tool. The other thing that's really cool about it is that if you're just getting into a scope, or you're a little leery about the settings, if you look in the top left, we're looking at primary current, not just for an ignition coil. This is specific, M272 and 273. That's 4. We're getting very specific now. So again, it's going to have your settings set up and ready to go. I typically find that they work, but always check them. Once in a while, I do get a little thrown by whether it's got AC coupling on or not, and maybe it shouldn't. So always check that stuff if your pattern just doesn't look like it's supposed to. There is also a pretty extensive library on there, and again, just very user friendly to use as far as using a scope. Over here, the bottom left there, it looks like we're getting into our Xentry CAN tool. When you select this, I can tell you right now, if the screen usually gets blurry, it'll clear up. Just give it a second. We can't really get into the CAN tool that's the whole day, but it's a great tool to use. Again, this is for when you have like a good scope pattern. We're dealing with we have good CAN voltage, but we're more interested in the message. Again, it's highly advanced. If you ever have any downtime, it's a great tool. And a lot of issues with this tool that seem to get hung up on, even when they bring you in there for the class, is by not having a good power and ground to the tool itself. So nothing will populate. You'll never see any of that nonsense that you see, in all of our characters, the zeros, and all of our alphabet letters and everything else. Funny story. I was actually working on a car, and I had my power supply on the jump post. I didn't know it. Somebody went ahead and messed around with the pre-fuse, and basically it's almost like it blew and separated it from the battery, but they kind of jumped it weird. And I had my leads for my CAN tool on the battery, which was stone dead. So it took me a little bit to find it. I'm like, well, I've got good power and ground, and turned out I didn't. So always go back to the basics when stuff doesn't work. Andrew, what am I looking at over here? There's wires.
So this is the main harness for the Xentry CAN tool.
Yep.
We've got high-speed CAN and low-speed CAN, K-line and LIN, and then your power, ground, and ignition voltage. And then on the right, we have some of the adapters that you can use to plug into the CAN junctions and otherwise access the CAN networks.
Right. Yep.
Luckily, they're all labeled on this
Right.
one.
Yep. Absolutely. Makes it very easy. Makes it very, again, just user friendly to play around with. Excuse me. Okay. Quick PSA here. If you have a cloned tool, okay, or a knockoff, whatever you want to call it, okay, make sure that when you order your $40,000 tool, that you have your clone permanently air gapped, okay? Because if I'm using my legit tool and I have my clone tool on the same network, guess which tool they're going to shut off? Andrew, which one are we turning off?
The $40,000 brick.
The $40,000 tool. Now it's a brick, exactly. So if anybody's using clones or bringing them in, just make sure that they are permanently air gapped. I don't want to play around with it. I hear about horror stories about mobile guys getting places, and they had no idea that there was a clone tool there, and it turns into quite a bit of a mess. So again, if there's a clone tool, leave it at home. You've got the real deal there. There's almost no need for it. And if it does need to be there, just make sure that it's not hooked up to the internet. Xentry does phone home. Now Xentry is important, and we're gonna get back to it in a little bit, okay? But it's only one key part of a multi-pronged solution that you kind of need to perform these diagnostics. You kind of need ISP and schematics and star wiring. Description and observation is going to be in WIS, and our parts catalog. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on our ISP, our independent service provider portal. Okay, so independent service provider, that's going to be you, me, anybody who's not the dealer. When you get to go ahead and log in, what you want to do is, again, these are great resources for this multi-pronged approach. When you log on to it, you're going to be given a C7 number from Mercedes-Benz. At the dealer, you were given a D7 number, so customer dealer, right? So for me, it would be C7D Woll or D7D Woll, and your password. Make sure that nobody else has got a hold of it. Andrew, I spent $40,000 on this tool. I've got my C7 number. I've got my ISP. I've got all the things. I am firing on every single cylinder possible. I have every bit of access than the dealer does, right?
Almost.
Andrew, don't you tell me I just spent 40 grand on this thing, plus this $600 on duty fees. I have all the bit of capability, right?
You're still gonna have to send a car to the dealer if it's a DAS 4 car and you need keys, or if it's a Sprinter and it needs an ignition switch,
Right.
or if you need to do something that involves modifying the vehicle documentation, VDoc.
Right. So again, one more time. So VDoc is everything to do with all the vehicle documentation data card. FDoc is every rolling code ever made. Now DOS 4, I'm going to amend DOS 4. Okay. DOS 4, anybody who was DOS 4 had the clearance for it, right? We were sent to class. The keys for the first time ever were blank. Okay. So even you had a D7 number, you couldn't do it unless you went to DOS 4 class. And what you would do, the keys would be at the parts department. You can go ahead and take them. You'd need 2 keys to do it. So you at least had to have 1 key. And you could go ahead and learn the key to the vehicle. And if you had the clearance, you're ready to rock. You will not be able to do that, at least right now. But on the outside, if you're ever trying to get keys and bring them into service, what you can do is hit the little select that says all keys lost. If you hit all keys lost on a DOS 4 car, that means that all the keys will come right from the motherland, ready to rock. So DOS 4 started in about when, Andrew? 2012?
2012 was the earliest on the 231 chassis.
On a 231, and then after that, 2 years later, it made its way to the 212, and you'll start seeing it so on and so on. So again, if it's a DOS 4 car and you need to order keys for it, you are not right now able to bring a key into service. But if you hit all keys lost, you can get the customer and make them whole. Again, all the normal things apply. You have to have your LSID, all the same kind of nonsense ordering except for relevant parts. Okay, but at least you're not stranded. That may change in the future. So far this week, I haven't heard anything different. Okay.
Yep.
Here is the main ISP Xentry portal. This is kind of what it's going to look like here. I don't know if everybody can see this. Let me get rid of this. Okay, sorry. Let's go ahead and move forward here. Something popped up on the screen. And what do we got over here, Andrew? What are we looking at now?
So this is XOT is Xentry operation time. We've got Xentry Wiz, Xentry Tips, ISP, which is independent service provider parts information and technical information.
Okay, what's WIS?
WIS is your description and operation, as well as specifications and repair information.
Right, so it's workshop information. There you go. And then Xentry Tips, what's in there? What are we talking about there?
Those are your technical service bulletins or local information, as Mercedes calls them,
LI
LIs.
topics. Yep.
Yep.
I like it. All right, perfect. So we're going to start with technical information, and there's a reason why. So we're going to go a little bit to the right, and we'll come back around. So technical information. The reason why I would say you start with that is right here. So once you hit technical information, the first thing that comes up is that splash page. When that splash page comes up, it's got really good information. It may even have, right now you can also see pricing for certain kits. It can also tell you how long some kits can be to get. That may disappear and then come back. The other thing that comes up is whether our flash servers are operational. It'll also tell you when there's going to be service done to the site and or like to headquarters to be able to get something out of the shop, okay, like with your tool and you're programming and coding it. So always important to check this in the morning. I will tell you most problems with the site do occur in the morning. So if you see nothing on the page, sometimes you'll see a little pink box that comes up in the bottom right that says error, which is just great. And usually by sometimes around 8:15, 8:30, it's up and running. Now that I've said that, I will tell you that it's been down since this afternoon. I've messaged Mercedes-Benz and they've told me to clear my cache and move on. As far as when you're using ISP portal, it is good practice for it to be used with Chrome. It works best with Chrome. That's what they recommend. That's what they're using at the dealership. You can use it with Firefox or Edge, but they typically want you to use Chrome. I will tell you, if there was an update done, it is common that sometimes clearing your cache does bring the site back, but so far today that's not the case.
Yep.
So again, just check that when you hit technical information. Staying with technical information, if we go over here and we hit our star wiring, that's where we're going to get some of our schematics. Okay. Again, there's a lot of stuff. There's what's new, operator manuals, special tools. You're not going to get too much on VDoc because you don't have access to it. We have our star bulletins. We've got, again, that's some of the older stuff, but we have diagnostic info. We talked about that earlier. Again, there's a lot of stuff. So for right now, we're just going to go through some of our schematics. We're going to go ahead here. We're going to go to star wiring, and then we're going to go to chassis, left to center of the page. Okay. Also on the top right, highlighted in blue in that second drop down is passenger or vans. So if you're working on a Sprinter or a Metris, you would choose vans. If you're in passenger, you type in that chassis, it's not coming up there. So in here, it looks like we're on passenger cars, and we're going to type in 253, which would be a GLC. After you enter in your chassis number, you're going to go ahead and that search will come up on your right. If you hit enter, nothing's going to happen. You got to hit search. It will go ahead and pull it up. Here, it's going to come up depending on if there was like a model refinement. So you want to pay attention to that, because if there's a model refinement, you're going to have a year break. Okay, so in this case, it looks like we're hitting our 2016 to 2019 menu. So if you were to look at just need locations only, you could do that, but you would hit Star Finder, which is below that highlighted orange there. But typically when you're using this, you want the Star Finder with WebETM. is what you'll be using for it. A little box will come up. Also, you might see this stuff come up when you're working on 48 volt or hybrid and things like that. You're just going to say that you've read it. Hopefully you have. Any safety information that is. Once you've gone through there, you can either choose search by our diagrams by the title, by the components, by the name, or you can start searching through the number. If you know the alphanumeric number, in this case, we're hitting N73 for our electronic ignition switch. And then just go ahead and click on that document that's highlighted in the orange, and it will take you to the schematic. Andrew, what am I looking at over here?
So there's a problem.
Mhm.
This is an earlier version of the site which didn't have Xentry operation time and stuff on there, but the issue is ISP is grayed out. When they're grayed out like that, it means that there's an issue, right, Dennis?
Right. So that's going to mean a few things. Typically, the most common is that you don't have access to it because it needs to be re-upped. So it may require payment, or again, you may have a technical issue. Again, typically technical issues show you errors. If it doesn't come up with that little pink error and that's grayed out, you can go and look at your subscription, and basically I usually just take a screenshot of it and say, hey, guys, I'm paid up. Please turn this back on for me. I should say, please understand, as much as I'm saying it that I need it to be done yesterday, everything with Mercedes-Benz is hurry up and wait. So use sugar as much as you can when you're emailing these guys. All right, Andrew, take me through a couple things here. What do we got here?
So we have Xentry operation time, Xentry Wiz, Xentry tips. You want to ISP technical information. We already covered technical information. Well,
Yep.
So let's hit Xentry operation time.
Yep.
And
So,
enter the VIN.
Okay, so and what is Xentry operation time is our, it's again, it's our
Labor
labor
guide.
time guide, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yep, so we got it over here, we're entered our VIN. All right, and what do we got over here?
Groups.
All right, so we can select our groups. Again, so knowing your group numbers is really, really good, but again, it's got a description of what things are. So you can see, one is maintenance, we have engine, service information, crankshaft, all that other nonsense. So we're gonna select groups over here. It looks like we're gonna go ahead and select engine, and then we have a subgroup, like what do we want inside the engine? Over here, it looks like we've hit replace engine and cylinder head. You can see that by the little blue check mark highlighted.
Yep.
So once the subgroups are selected, you want to select operation items, and then you can view the actual jobs and the times. So if I look at some of this over here, and I see 10.5 and I see 8.3, I understand what that means. What is a ZM?
ZM is non-time.
Non-time. All right. What does that mean?
It means you're gonna have to do some research to try and figure out the appropriate time.
Okay, I thought I could just charge them whatever it is because I like that, but no, we can't. So in this case, you could look at other resources. You could give us a ring if we've done the job. We're more than happy to tell you what it takes to get it done. Or you may have to call a friend, phone a friend at the dealer. Usually your timekeeper would be the best guy. Anything that's non-time or ZM time, most dispatchers would have it written down their little Bible that they usually keep, a little black and white notebook, whatever it is. Okay. What about over here? If I look at this, it says, what is that, 3.5 hours for a timing chain? And that's what the cylinder head cover removed. So I'm just going to charge 3.5 hours. Is that good?
No, definitely not.
So what kind of time are we looking at here?
Multiply it by 1.6.
That's right, because what you're looking at here is you're looking at warranty time. The dealer also does it by 1.6. That's what I still do today. It usually holds true. So if you're looking and you're using other sources for labor time guides, sometimes it works well. Sometimes they multiply it by that 1.6. Sometimes they don't. Other times they miss it. And a good example would be like on a C-Class 204 chassis. It pays like 11 hours to do the engine mounts on it, but that's only on a 4MATIC. And I believe up until maybe 2 weeks ago, at least the last time I've checked it, on certain other other sites, they were still charging 9 hours for a, or 11 hours rather, for the two-wheel drive version, which we were literally done in like 15 minutes. So again, I get you, you're going to have a big win that day, but it's not exactly what the correct time is. So Xentry operation time, good resource. Just remember when we're going over any type of, remember to add that 1.6 to it. Okay.
Or
Now,
multiply by.
yeah, multiply it. Sorry, about 1.6. Okay, so now we've got labor times. I need to know how to repair this. Right. So what are we clicking on now?
Xentry Whiz.
Xentry WIS, the workshop information system. So we're going to start here by entering our VIN and then hit the search button. It's going to populate the screen with our model information. You're going to hit select OK and continue. There's going to be several options here. What do we got here, Andrew? What are we looking at?
Got document number, standard, full text, document title, operation number, essay code, table of contents.
Okay. Well, for most, you're just going to go ahead and hit standard. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, standard or sometimes full text if you're
Full
looking
text
for
is good.
something.
If you click on full text, you can hit advanced search right after that and just type in words to look for what you're doing. But for this exercise, we're going to go ahead and hit standard.
Yep.
After you hit standard, you're going to see groups and then information types. So we're going to hit that little plus there on our group. Our group will pop up. Again, don't need to know the numbers, but as you do this and know the numbers, it just makes it faster. There is going to be a description there for you. So in this case, we're going to hit group and we're going to hit engine timing, which is group 5. After that, we're going to hit that other plus there. And then we're going to see our information type. In this case, we're going to go ahead and choose repair. Note, you can look for circuit diagrams and other stuff, organization, basic data. In this case, we're choosing repair. After you choose repair, what you're going to see here is your hit list. Okay, so anytime you're navigating back and forth, if you want to go back to where you are, the hit list is what you want. And it looks like over here, we're going to hit check basic position of camshaft. You would hit that eyeball all the way to the right to move on to the next step. Okay, so in that case, we're hitting a little eyeball, and it's going to tell us all the warnings. You've read them, and hopefully you have. Now, this is typically what you would see on the next screen. Andrew, what do the reds do?
The reds are like procedures.
Right. So your reds are going to be your how-tos. You can see that highlighted in orange there at the bottom of the screen. So if I click that, it's going to take me to the next step, right? And what do the blues do?
Blues are generally like specifications and like fluid types, torque specs, that kind of thing.
Right. Special tools. Right. Exactly.
Special tools. Yeah.
So in this case, we hit the blue. It's going to take us over here. So red's going to be your how-tos. Blues are going to be all your specs and special tools and things of that nature. Okay. I touched on the diagrams. Many other diagrams are in WIS. Many other diagrams that are in your ISP portal under Star Wiring can be found in WIS. Mercedes-Benz states that the diagrams that are in WIS are more accurate. I will say that they are when they're available, and they usually have additional details as well. These really work well on some of that older junk, like what you're working on, like a 903 chassis. Definitely way more accurate than using the Star Wiring. Definitely recommend that you're using WIS there for those older 903s. If we're over here, you'd have to open up a document for the schematic. You'd have to click on that PE document there, and then click on the link to see it. So we're going to go ahead and click on our wiring diagram, go all the way to the right to our little eyeball and click it. After that, it's going to take us there. And the first one on that top right, on that top link, you can see, right, if we go over to our left, that's our wiring diagram for MESFI. And that's, if we click our guy on the right, it's going to take us right to the schematic. Once you look at it over here, if again, it's a little different than Star Wiring. You can drag it and move it, but it's not just going to be kind of all over the screen as Star Wiring was. But again, fundamentally the same content or more. You can also change your color. You can the background color is where that top little 3 dots over there for the toolbar, and change the background color as well as start hitting the flow of where the flow of electricity as well. The other thing is that when you start to click on these guys, it will, in this case, if you click on like a certain Z-splice, it takes you to that Z-splice and every Z-splice in the car. Again, a nice little layout to kind of see where things are in the vehicle. Xentry tips. Here you're going to be looking at technical service bulletin information, or LI, or LI topics. Over here, we're going to go ahead and enter our VIN just to get started in that orange box. Topics is going to be selected by default, and you want to make sure that all is on that top right over there as well. Okay. You can choose the latest tips documents for what's there. You can get hit to the most popular tips documents, last read tips documents, and your favorites. Or again, we usually try to keep it as all to get as much as we can on that particular topic. If you select a result to enter a tips document referred to as an LI or local information, what you'll see is you're going to have a section, you're going to have headings that show up. So right now, the title is going to be default, right? So the title is going to be, here's our topic number, our version, the function group, the date, all that other information on it, what range of models that it's going to affect, and that's what's there as your default. But as you go through, you can go and hit complaint, and it's going to pop up right there. Same thing as cause, it's going to pop it right up, or remedy, it's going to move it all up as you hover over it. Now, the other thing that's cool is the same thing for WIS documents. So you can just kind of breeze over it, just hover over it with the mouse, and it's going to move it to get a quick idea of what's there. Same thing with symptoms. After you've done that top X on the right, we'll go ahead and close that, so you can go ahead and move on to the next one if that's not the document that applied to you or what you're not looking for. You can search by symptoms as well. This will open up a symptom. If you have your, again, so over here we have our VIN, we're going to select symptom. And over here it looks like we're looking at suspension and noises. And it looks like we're looking at clattering. After that, you would hit the bottom right as continue after you've selected clattering in that orange box. And when you hover over the tip, right, again, we can see some pop-up information, right? So here's a complaint again, the cause, right? You can also search tips through the function groups, right? So now if you see over here, the VIN is grayed out, but it's still written in there. And then right underneath it is clattering, okay? So this is important to know, because if I hit function groups and that's written in there, that's all that's going to come up is in group 32 and 46, or suspension and then steering. That's all you're going to see. So if you went to go do a different search, remember to click that X and remove it. Otherwise, you're not going to get the full scope. So if we hit that X, we get rid of it. Now I'm going to get and go back to my function groups. I'll get all the stuff. So now you see 35, 40. I've got, if you were to scroll up, you get the rest of them. Over here, we can go ahead and choose a group that we're interested in. It looks like we're looking at timing. We're going to hit continue. And then we go ahead and select an LI topic. Again, hovering over this stuff will bring you right to it. And what's also cool about this is that, especially for the WIS side, is that if you click that WIS references and it comes up, it will go ahead right on that top left over there in that orange box, and you're on a WIS document. If you click it, it brings you right to it. So you don't have to go copy and paste it anymore and then type it in, which you could do into the document number, but if it's there, you can legit click on it and it's going to hyperlink you right there. Okay, over here you can see the adjusters. You can also search back to tips. You can search by the control unit. In this case, it looks like we're looking at an engine control module. You can search tips through a given fault code and then see what comes up on it. In this case, it's a 0614, and here's our code that pops up after we search it. You can also type it in the top left word search. You can put words in there, whatever you want. Now that I've said all of that, if you're using tips, using the VIN is great because you're specifying it to your vehicle. Is that best practice, Andrew?
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
It'll be sufficient, but
right.
In some cases, you might want to broaden your search by searching by the chassis only.
Right. So if you search just by the chassis and picking the car that you've got, Mercedes-Benz sometimes leave out information that is applicable to what you've got. A good example would be like oxygen sensors on an ME97 were very common. I think that the tips document says or the LI topic says that the lines are mixed. It's not that they're mixed, they're sorting out. And ME97 is not just in, like, I believe if you pull it up on a 164, you could search the topic and it's there. But if you were to search it on a C-Class, on a 204, it doesn't come up. And it's the same engine, they suffer the same thing. So that would be a way that it'll kind of spill over to the next type of chassis. And if you put in your VIN, you may miss it. Having the VIN in there is good for stuff when it's specific for a certain engine model, production date, things of that nature. Again, sometimes you have to search both ways. So if it feels like a bulletin, right, and it's not applying to your car specifically, just pop in the chassis in general and take a search on it, and you may find that it'll throw some other stuff up in there. So now we have ISPPI, which is our parts catalog or parts information. When you're using the parts information, again, this is also part of that multi-pronged solution we're talking about. Here's the opposite. You always want to use the VIN here. If you want later on, you can take off the filters. And this screen, this is what you get after you enter into the parts information, after you input the VIN. And then over there, you can select from the groups that you want on the left, and then the parts page will pop up. In this case, it looks like we're looking at a conductor plate on an ML, and we can see that it started as an A222 701506, and it went down to the that 2806 is what it's been updated to. Okay. Now, again, that's all of our ISP. There's way more information into it. We're going to shift gears and get back to our tool. You've ordered the tool, you spent your money, you've done all the things you need to do. As soon as you turn on that tool, it's going to have you log in. There is also a two-step verification to this. If you are programming, in the middle of programming and you've logged in, you're doing all your stuff, and you go to your computer and you want to search something and it says, hey, I need you to log in or re-log back in, don't do it if you're programming something, because if you do, it can log you out and cause a little bit of a problem. Not to say that you can't get it back, but just avoid that nonsense when you can. The other thing about the two-step verification, I would say, is that make sure whoever has the tool, that you have access to the email and the tech that's using it has access, or you're making yourself available to them, especially when the two-step verification shows a miss. This screen will pop up on the tool on your Xentry, and once that happens, the person who's the boss of it, right? They will go ahead and get a text message right to their phone, and this is a timed event, and you want to be able to go ahead and get them that number that you need to pop it in so they can go ahead and keep moving forward. Once the tool is on, this is the screen that you're going to see after the login has been approved. Here we can select entry by VIN, passenger car, etc. Right? So we have VIN, passenger car, VIN, super sports car. If we hit passenger car, the reason why I like that is if you look at the bottom of the screen here, bottom left, that is automatic vehicle detection, and that works great. Sometimes as you go to the next screen, it'll automatically just start finding the car. But passenger car is important for, let's say you've got a car that doesn't really want to talk or it doesn't auto ID for whatever reason. You can hit passenger car and you can select the vehicle and you can kind of get into things. So like on a 204 chassis where the steering lock goes bad, right? Because that doesn't happen. You can go ahead and hit passenger cars, hit the C-Class, hit all, and then kind of get into the vehicle and at least talk to the ignition switch to usually see that type of a code there, or whatever you're working on to kind of get you more of a visual of it. So if the automatic detection is not there, passenger cars are good tools. This was a GLC I was working on. I selected all. I kept hitting all. Went ahead and on the bottom, select Xentry Diagnostics. And after that, it's going to go through a 6-step verification. That gray guy is that bar is going to go ahead and play ping pong and go back and forth and run through all of our 6 steps. After that, this is the screen that you're going to see. There's a lot of stuff going on here. You have the Xentry Diagnostics help card is at the bottom of the screen. That's for new stuff that they add. If you hit customer complaints, it'll ask you to first run a quick test. We have overview, diagnosis, customer complaints, control unit view, topology, special functions, Xentry remote diagnosis. That's pretty much for dealers at this time. We're going to start with a quick test and then we're going to work our way through. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead, hit quick test, initial quick test in this case, because we haven't hit one yet. After that, you would hit start at the bottom left. After that, you're gonna see a little progress bar again come up. Sometimes it's gonna hang up. If this hangs up, just tap the screen and it'll start to go. Over here, we're looking at our quick test. We can kind of get an idea of what we got going on. So if we hit our little plus and minus there, we can see what we're looking at before we go into the module completely. The minus, we'll just go ahead and close that again. The control units are going to be in a fixed sequence, and they're usually in an order of function groups, right? Powertrain to body in alphabetical order. Now, the control units are going to be sorted into the status from current codes, false events. You know what? Let's talk about that right now. What are we looking at over here, Andrew?
Those are the icons for the quick test results.
Right. What do they mean?
So the exclamation point means that it was not responsive. It didn't respond. The green check mark means no faults. Capital F means current faults. Lowercase f means stored faults, and I means events.
I like it. Okay, so now we know what that means, right? What it's going to do is it's automatically going to put them in an order from top to bottom. If you don't like that order, you can hit that sequence filter and you can change it, okay, to see what you're looking at. So you can then switch in between all the control units with faults and no check marks, or you just want to see all the non-responsives, whatever it is that you can see on your screen, you can kind of tailor it. The other thing is that if you're on it, you notice that you had a whole bunch of codes and now they're pretty much all gone, take a look to see if you hit that button by mistake. So if let's say we have our quick test here, how many modules are we looking at? You're looking at, 75 to 100 and something, right? So if you're scrolling through a quick test, again, you missed it through alphabetical order, you hit your filters, maybe you just didn't see it, okay? Or maybe it didn't come up at all. You can just type it in the word search. So you can use the alphanumeric number if you know it. If not, just type in words. It will bring you there, okay? Again, if it's not there and it's supposed to be, again, it's a quick way of finding it. There's a lot of modules in these cars.
Yeah, if it's not there and it's supposed to be, it didn't communicate. So
Right. And it may sometimes it's so as much as I'd love to say that, let's say in this case, we're looking at our N73 or our left front door control module. If it's not there, it should be a red exclamation point as non-responsive, but sometimes it just doesn't appear at all. So again, nice little search to use and it works well. Over here, as we continue to go through all these buttons, we have a light bulb. That light bulb is repair forecasting. Now this car is really torn apart, but this is basically based on the fault. It's going to show a percentage of the quote unquote fixes. Then you can thumbs up and thumbs down to whether it helped you or not. Again, nice information to have. In this case, it looks like it says disconnect or connect the automatic transmission at the flange. It was good. It wasn't even hooked up, so it wasn't there. It was missing, so it wasn't wrong. The next thing I want to point out is this blue book on the top right. That is your library resources. If you hit the book before going in, it's going to show you some stuff. It's kind of an overview of what we got going on. Again, before I even, who's involved, an overview, before I've even gone into the module. Haven't gone in there yet, okay? You can also see the diagram from here and then kind of go down the line. Here's an exploded view, right, of that diagram as we've clicked on it. And if we keep on going, I can see the fuse assignment, which is really helpful because, try to find the fuse card in this car. And again, I'm right at the tool. I haven't left the car. And then here's my fuse and relay layout, which is also super nice because depending on data card and stuff like that, it may not be there. I will also tell you, this can be correct. If you look at it and let's say it's not making any sense, always refer back to WIS. WIS is always going to be more accurate. Okay, but again, it's nice to have something that's there. Now I've entered in on the module. Okay, what are we looking at over here, Andrew? What do we got? We just entered in on it.
This is basically like our part numbers and for the different software and hardware.
Right.
We're basically just looking to make sure that it's not reading all zeros or bootloader,
Okay.
to indicate that the module is actually, normal.
Right. And if it's in zeros or in boot, what does that indicate?
So it might be a new module that hasn't been programmed yet, or it could be a module where someone was trying to update it and the programming failed, and so it defaulted into the bootloader state. Or lastly, it could be that the module lost its programming, just kind of incidentally, which on rare occasions does happen.
Right. Right. Again, just not to be completely hung up on it, but again, just important information to know. Over here, the next thing we can go hit our error fault codes, right? If you hit the plus and the minus, what are we going to see there, Andrew?
Freeze frame data.
Freeze frame data, again, very helpful in stepping through and going to the next thing. Next up, we got actual values. You're going to see your live data there. Again, nothing earth shattering there. Next would be actuations. Usually this will give you notes as well as instructions, even prerequisites. It's almost like a prelude to a test. And they ask you for like a current reading or give you a current reading or a voltage reading, things of that nature. Okay, so this is going to be your bi-directional controls. Adaptations. This is where you're going to see like control units initial startup. If there's any kind of manual coding, are we seeing a lot of manual coding anymore?
No, not really.
Yeah, typically if there's any kind of manual coding, it's going to be like in your automatic air conditioning under workshop coding. You might have some stuff when you're selecting like what type of windshield it is, things of that nature. But for the most part, you're getting into SDN or software calibration number. Now, if I'm looking to bring something into service and I'm going to go ahead and hit initial startup, are the servers operational? Wait, are they operational, Andrew?
Yeah, we checked.
Where did I check?
In the technical information in the
Technical
ISP.
information. That's right. As soon as I got to work, I opened up my computer and I hit technical information on my ISP, and I saw that the flash servers are ready to rock. Okay. This screen, control unit log. Again, as we're going through the top here, this used to be just mostly for dealer use, and it was basically they wanted the workshop name, where you're at, and just to keep tabs on what was failing and to make sure that all of your paperwork was filled out. You're actually going to see this screen more and more, specifically like on electric steering, things of that nature. Before you even get to anywhere else, if you click on electric steering, before you get to like version error codes, everything else is on top, you might get a control unit log page. Fill it out and then be able to move on. Okay. Special functions. This is where you're going to have some tests and resets. Okay, in this case, it looks like we're still in our powertrain control module. If we can select from the top there, special procedures, and then we have reinitialize assist on the left there. It's highlighted in the dark blue, one guy down. If we call that up, we can select from special procedures, reinitialize assist. We can enter in our current mileage in the vehicle in kilometers. Also enter in our current date and then press continue. What you're looking at here, guys, is this is how you would reset a service indicator on some of these cars from like 2016 and up. After you reset the service indicator, it can tell you that it's overdue by 11 billion miles, and it's not. It's a problem in the powertrain control unit. The real fix for it is you have to update it, but sometimes when you update the powertrain control unit, you have to update the FSCU, the ME, and the transmission control module. So if you need to get them out with the factory tool, you can actually do that real quick. Okay. Again, the right way is an update, but still. Over here, we can go into our tests. That's going to be, again, similar layout with pinouts. We saw this in the library resource book slides. Hitting the car, that's going to exit you at the top left there. The next one is going to be customer complaints. This is on our main splash page again. Now it looks like this one's got a few complaints that were detected here. You can pick from what's there, or you can make your own. In this case, I'm going to make my own, and I'm going to specifically hit new complaint. I'm going to hit power generation. After that, I'm going to hit engine management, engine start stop. And I'm going to say does not start. After that, I'm going to hit save. After I hit that, I get to name it. I'm going to call it eco. Okay. And then I'm going to read save complaint. After this, we're going to hit confirm and continue. It will then pull up a topology screen for you to see who's involved in the network. If you see on the bottom there, you can also launch tips and widths right there at that time. So if it feels like a bulletin or you want to look something up in width, you can do it right here from the tool. Okay. Over here, we can see all the control units that are involved. Again, we can see the version. Just make sure it's not in boot or all zeros. We're going to move on. We can see error codes and customer complaint. We can hit test. And this can take a little bit to populate. So if you see the screen, just give it a little bit after you hit continue. After selecting the complaint in the case, you can then select causes for stop inhibit, and then engine stop inhibit on the top left there, go one down. And then we're going to have some preconditions and some notes. And why is this good in customer complaint? Does an eco start stop module exist, Andrew?
No.
No, it does not, but this is where you can see what's going on with it. So there are some things that are not available in the tool that are available through customer complaint, and this is one of them. Okay, and over here you can see clearly there's something up with our electrical system. The driver's not there, meaning it's not buckled, or the engine's not okay, which means it's not running. You can also hit software while in customer complaint, and it will check for software updates. In this case, it's saying that there's no software updates for any component that was in that customer complaint. Back to customer complaints over here, we can go to our control unit view. Now, control unit view is good if there's no module list and you want to go right into it, but it can be a little dicey. If you get into it, you better know what you're looking at and what it's equipped with, because if you don't, it can lead you down a path of, well, hey, look, it's not talking, it can't be determined. Now it's going to take you to a test. So just use caution. In this case, we looked at our all-wheel drive transfer case, and this car doesn't have one. Okay, it doesn't have a separate transfer case module. So just use caution when you're doing that. Topology, going through topology, a couple guys here. So that button that's in the red over there, that was going to hide or show all bus systems. So you can see over here, we've added, by hitting that button, we've added some blue and gray lines. This button will show or hide further cross connections. Okay, you can see we're just expanding on it. This button will increase or decrease the font size so you can actually read it. This is actually a little small on the screen. The cross hatches in that area, what you see with the A2617 and N127 and the M310, that means that the control unit acts as an interface. The dark section means that the control unit is in the bus system. There's going to be an information window that's going to pop up when you click on it. Okay, our red markings are going to represent any kind of fault in the system. You can also identify CAN and LIN and etc. as you go on. You can hit continue here, and then it's going to take you right to the module. So in this case, it looks like we're on our transmission control module. And again, we're using topology here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. Oh boy, Andrew, help. What am I looking at? What happened?
This is your typical screen that you'll see when you can't communicate to a module for some reason.
Okay.
Those 3 check marks are your friend.
Okay.
They'll give you, if you click on them, they'll give you some idea of what kind of testing you should do to determine the cause of the lack of communication.
Okay, so what I would say here is that if you see the yellow screen of death pop up, okay, if you can toggle back and forth in between the restart there, that's just to the left of the check marks, and go back and forth, and it's still there, it'll let you navigate back and forth. Usually means that the part's not talking and the tool's okay. If you're on the yellow screen of death and it just locks up and doesn't allow you to do anything, usually means it was a communication thing between the tool and the car, and just restarting it will get you back to it. So if I hit the 3 checks on it, that's going to give me some troubleshooting, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm hitting 3 checks. What are we looking at here?
Basically the power and ground checking.
Okay, so it's taking me right to the test.
Yeah.
Right to the test. So specifically, I've got power and ground. Okay, so I can hit no or yes in the bottom there. It's even showing me what pins are what, which is kind of nice. It's laid out, right?
Yep.
All right, cool. Over here, if you see to the left bottom, the screen that's behind this one, it's telling me pin 1, pin 2, 3, 4, 5, what they represent. So that's great. There's a pin out. And then we have like a prerequisite that comes up. So excuse me, it's telling me about the prerequisite, make sure that the power supply is okay. And it wants me to expose a CAN voltage distributor and make sure that the wiring is good from A to B, right?
Yep.
So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and say everything's okay. I'm going to hit yes, right?
Yep.
All right, I hit yes. What's it telling me to do?
Chuck a control unit at it.
Put it in, right? Can I put this in?
No,
Why? It just, look, the tool said to put it in.
the tool is got a blind spot or two.
It's got a blind spotter tool. Okay, here's the deal. It cost me $40,000. It said put the tool in. I'm going to spend $2 grand. I'm going to pop it in there, and I still can't talk to it. Guys and girls, we still need to make sure that we're being technicians or mechanics or whatever you want to call. Make sure that it never mentions anything about terminal tension. So whether you're using the official Mercedes-Benz electrical test kit or whatever test kit you have there, AES Wave makes a nice one. You want to make sure that the terminal tension is good, because if this car was at another shop and we had somebody that was working with my first test light and was jamming the thing in the pin and they wind it out, you're not going to know. And again, Mercedes-Benz in their directions, they're not mentioning it there. They just want all the lines are okay. They don't specifically mention it. So make sure that we have the right stuff. The days of paper clips are gone. And I should mention back probing, though it's good here and there, I like wire pierces better, because if you're back probing, sometimes you can actually make the connection and you might be fixing what's there and you still not be able to talk to it, okay? Back over here, we have special functions. We can see any kind of stored logs, retrofits, Xentry remote diagnosis. All this stuff is an XRD. This is all mostly for dealer. You're really not going to touch it there, okay? If you're ever on the line with Mercedes-Benz and they tell you to hit hamburger, that's the button that they mean. The 3 lines at the top of the left, okay? If you hit that and they want you to scroll through, or if you hit that, I can tell you that, again, it will give you mostly of what we've gone through, plus some more stuff. So again, you'll have Xentry VDOC, you don't have access to that, but again, you can see tips and widths and parts information right from there, and you can launch it right from the tool. Again, just to reiterate it, tips is great, but when you're using a tool, it's going to lock it into the VIN. So you might want to do that search as a general, on your computer, and make sure it applies to your vehicle. Again, when using parts, make sure the VIN's in there. Okay, over here we got that's our system settings coming up from our main menu. XSF. This is basically if you have a problem with the tool, it will prompt you to log in. Always accept cookies all the time. It may have you fill out a support request first. With Mercedes-Benz, if there's issues with it, and they will write you back and tell you what they're looking for from you. As always, any type of support case or XSF case that you create with Mercedes-Benz is a hurry up and wait situation. On the bottom there, as we're going through after XSF and support, we have help for some simple explanations on stuff if you forget what does what. Then if you need to change the user, or quit or log off so nobody can use your credentials. So over here, we've got bottom right over here, that's just an example of the restart has been completed. Again, it's updated on its own. There's no need for you to do that. This is our dot screen over here. This is what it's going to look like. You can choose the vehicle. In this case, it's a 220 chassis. We're going to go ahead and hit some of that F2, F3, F1 buttonology that we talked about at the beginning. So we're going to go ahead and hit our F2. And over here, we can either hit click on quick test or hit your F3 to enter. All right, it's going to go ahead and run a quick test on a gull wing, because that's what worked on this car. And this is our DOS quick test running and now finally completed. Again, nothing quick about a quick test. If we start running through here and we hit escape, you can go to your last menu, initial mask, and DOS, or you can start tips right from here. If we hit our again, F1 is going to be your back button. If you did a quick test and you hit the F1 button by mistake, it won't have you run the quick test again. If you just enter in on it, it's already there. It'll launch it back up. Again, F3 is going to be your enter. F2 is going to go forward. Anytime there's a note on the screen, pay attention to it, because on the left is my F5 and on the right is my F7. If you hit left to right, you would have done this out of sequence. There's a note that says to synchronize first and then hit F5. So anytime there's a note, I'd recommend that you read that screen. Remember that filter sequence? it does exist in DOS too. So if you hit F4 once, hit it twice, hit it 3 times, it's going to change what's displayed. F5, usually you'll hit F5 to run another quick test, usually after hitting F9 to clear codes, and then hit F5 to run it. If you hit F6, that will open up WIS. Okay, and you can launch WIS right from here. Again, F8 is going to be your exploded view. This was the plus and minus that you saw on the Xentry screen. And then F9, as I spoke earlier, was clearing codes. F11, obviously a little printer there. It's going to go ahead and print it. In those DOS cars and some of these Xentry and definitely in some of the older DOS cars, you could play around. There's been adaptations. If you went into variant coding, again, where SDN coding was starting to happen, you can actually do some stuff here. If you have like an enthusiast that's driving a car, you can jump up the timing, enrich the mixture. If you have a car that's got, an older car that's just got brand new engine mounts, brand new transmission mount, and it just, brand new seats, and it still feels like it's got some resonance, you can also raise the idle and park as well as in gear just to get that out. Again, this is only helping if the car doesn't actually have a problem. But again, there is some stuff that you can do. Here is an example of our Xentry screen and our ESA. Andrew, what is our ESA doing? What is that telling us?
It is not communicating.
It is non-responsive. It's not communicating. So we got a problem. So we can go ahead and we can click on it, right, and try to attempt to communicate to it. So I've read all the information, hit continue, and yellow screen of death. So I can try to hit the repeat button, or I can hit my 3 checks. What do you want to hit, Andrew?
Let's hit the 3 checks.
3 checks, like it. So once you've done that, again, remembering this is a multi-pronged approach, you can have your ISP open, you can access the diagram. You know the alphanumeric number representation of the driver's ESA is the N32/1 because you were just looking at it on your Xentry screen, and you can go ahead to your top right and top it in, start looking at the diagram, get yourself an idea what's up, okay? If you want, before you start testing, you can hit yes or no on the bottom right and get yourself an idea of the circuit. Let's just say it's good. What would be next? Let's say no. What does it want next? What does it want from us, right? So over here, it looks like communicate with the CAN bus, doesn't malfunction, power supply, switch this off and, connect this over here at the actual unit. And then it wants me to go to the right side of that interior CAN. So this is the left seat, but it wants me to go to the right side. All right, fine. But I ran a quick test on this thing. So I want to know what else is not talking. So let's take a look. So it looks like what else isn't talking?
Transmission and keyless go.
Keyless go is not talking too. Okay, let's take a look. Is there anything that's related to them, right? So if I work through the diagram, okay, and it's basically telling me over here the measured values are not okay, and it wants me to check a short circuit or opening CAN lines. So it's looking like I got a CAN problem, right? So if I go to X30/33, I can see that my X69/5 is there. S69/5 is our keyless go. That was one of the guys not talking, right?
Yep.
Right. So if I go to my X30/33, I've unearthed that. I look at it. It's perfect. Everybody looks happy. My CAN voltage is good. But if I look at my X30/33 and I see what it has in common with my ESA, that goes over to the left side of the car. And I can see it in my diagram. So I have my X30/30 and it goes to the X30/32. Okay, now it's starting to make sense. If I go to my X30/32, we had a bad connection. That hoop that kind of corrals the wiring is so tight on this thing, it pulled the wire out of the terminal. So we went ahead and we re-pinned it, put it back in, and bam, the ESA is no longer unresponsive or non-responsive, and keyless go has now come back. And those codes are now just stored codes. We're no longer in a non-responsive condition. Programming with Xentry. When you're programming this stuff, it's pretty much going to walk you through it, guys. I think we're getting short. Brandon, Dwayne, how are we doing on time? I'm not paying attention. Are we doing okay? Someone answer me? They're not answering. We're going to keep going. So we're going to go. What do you got, Andrew? What are we at?
We're just a little bit over 10 past.
Okay, we're going to keep going. We're gonna step through programming here. Again, all you're really doing is selecting the car, right? The VIN that you're on, Xentry Diagnostics, you're selecting the car. We saw our 6-step verification earlier. And as we step through, and so that we've read this and do this, we're going to choose what we're doing. So in this case, it's the transmission, right? So we're bringing that into service under initial startup. We want to make sure that it's correct. Again, using that multi-pronged solution, we're going to have our parts information up, and we're going to put in our VIN, go to automatic transmission, and make sure that it's the right part, right? Make sure that what we've got is correct. Because again, parts guys are super important what we do. And if you got something that's new or just not with it, you want to make sure that what you've got belongs in your vehicle. Okay.
Yep.
So if we keep on stepping through, we want to continue with it. Yes, that's our number. It's going to make sure that we're logged in. It's going to be happy if you are. If not, it may also give you that two-step verification right here. Okay. As we continue, we're going to keep on connecting. It will tell you, well, again, make sure you have a battery maintainer connected. Everything else is turned off. It's going to tell you the object number. And it's also going to tell you how much time it's going to take. In this case, if you're doing like a powertrain control unit and it was telling you I had to do this, 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 and this, it's going to give you all that time. So you can add it up, and it's also going to add that up for you to give you that time estimation. You do have up to 5 times to program most modules, okay? If it doesn't flash the first time, don't panic. Just let it go and do its thing. Again, the progress bar is going to go through, and it will tell you whether it's done. It will always program before it SE encodes. And after it programs, it pulls the correct file. It will then SE encode, and then after that, it's any kind of teaching that you need. So in this case, it's going to have you run through the gears, make sure everybody's, it's going to make sure that you personalize it and activate it first, right? Or learn it to drive authorization. Make sure, and your VINs, always write the VIN that's on the car, make sure it's in capitals, not in lowercase letters, okay? Always the VIN, not the FIN, and it's in capital. VINs are one-time rights. Over here, again, we're just stepping through the process. It's going to be write the VIN, next. Learn it to drive authorization, teach it in, whether it's the throttle stop, in this case, the select a range sensor, and it's going to tell you what it wants, hold down the brakes, and follow the instructions on the screen, okay? After you're done, it will tell you whether it's done, yes or no. Over here, you're going to see, again, you'll fill that out. You can print it. The program is going to show you a little check that it's done, the coding, a little check that it's done, and you're pretty much finished here. At that point, let's go through some quick case studies. In this case, active brake assist, okay? So active brake assist, when you're bringing that into service, there's always a question on whether or not you're going to need the tool for it. If you're bringing this into service under initial startup, okay, it will tell you whether or not the tool needs to be brought with it, okay? So over here, it's going to say when the actual value reaches 100%, the sensor's been calibrated, and then it's going to go to like a green 0 again. That means that it's done, right? If we hit continue, we can look at our static value to make sure that this thing is not it's already not bent, okay? And don't pay attention to the red and green, always look at the numbers, because sometimes it can be on the edge of that. In this case, everybody looks happy. I'm going to step through to it, and it's going to tell me everything is adjusted properly. Everybody's happy. And over here, it will tell me that once it's done, the calibration, usually our warnings inside our cluster is going to go away. If we look in this, sorry, okay, so we're bringing it into service. Excuse me, we're bringing this into service. In this case, in this active brake assist. Again, it tells us it's going to take 3 minutes to do. We're going to go ahead and all of our prerequisites, make sure everything's ready to rock. 3 minutes. Our grade progress bar is going to go back and forth, or fill up rather. That's going to say programming's been done, coding's been done. Good idea to print this page out. Now, during the calibration drive, the diagnostic unit must be taken along for the vehicle during for determining the calibration process. For your lower lines, the tool usually needs to be driven with you. For your higher lines, it usually tells you right then and there it's not necessary, and you'll get the car will tell you either in the cluster or in the command. Okay. Something else that I wanted to show you here. In this case, it looks like the teaching press has not been started. It looks like the progress bar is already at 49%. It looks like in this case, the part that was there, we tried to teach this in, but something's broken. Clearly the car was in an accident. Something got hindered, and it's just upset. If this is a new part, we wouldn't have something like that there. As far as the VIN, there would be no VIN in it. In this case, it's already written in. Something else I want to show you guys. We're gonna zip ahead here because I know everybody wants to be done. If Xentry ever hangs up, minimize it and hit diagnose to stop. That's what that's for. If it's just hanging up and it's not responding to your button taps, it's also a good thing to get, drag and drop and minimize to the bottom of your toolbar if you need be. Okay. Another thing I want to show. Okay, so this was a 271 car. I'm sorry, this was a 203 chassis, C-Class, with a 271 engine in it. Now, the ME, the engine control module, motor electronics, is just running the fan, full tilt. So the guy was there, he said, my tech looked at it, and he says he tested all the wiring, it needs a new engine control module. So they put a brand new engine control module in. So if we look over here, this is what we're looking at. We're trying to bring it into service. We've hit adaptations and it's a startup. Bam, no new control unit software has been found. Great, I don't even have to flash it. All I gotta do is SD encode it and it's done. I'm gonna be out of here real quick, okay? And then we get the yellow screen of death, okay? This should be a slam dunk, right? Everything's been tested, right? This should go right through. But we had an error when we were trying to teach it in. So we go back through it and we want to redo it again. We hit the repeat next to the 3 little checks. And again, we see a fault has occurred. We've got some weird nonsense we're looking at the screen. I try it again. I'm losing an object number I can't read from the ME. I've got random readings. I'm dropping communication. None of this is happening before. Go back to the basics when stuff like that is happening. Again, multi-pronged approach rather. Go back to our diagram. We're taking a look at it. Recheck the basics. In this case, fuse 25 was cracked. Now this is really zoomed in, guys. And he was measuring it, and we're going through some of the fuses here, and we're at had a maintainer hooked up. It's at 13 and 13 and 13 and 13 and 13 and 11. Whoa, hold on, we're missing something. So we went over to it and pulled on the fuse, and it was blown. And that's all it was. Once you put it back in, everything went through, all the coding went through, and it was taught in within minutes. So if you're ever coding something or programming something and it's not looking good and you're getting some weird stuff, always just go back to the basic stuff. The other thing I would tell you is about headlights can be a pain in the butt, and you may have to do them more than once to bring them into service with the factory tool. I don't know if other tools are like that as well. Some tools are. It's not uncommon for you to have to redo LED coding and then teach in the light. At this point, Brandon, Dwayne, how are we looking on time, guys? Talk to me.
We are at 5:20 p.m., so about time to start gearing towards a wrap up.
Well, I'd say that I think we're pretty much good here. This was a lot of information to cover, guys, in about an hour. Does anybody have any questions for us that hopefully I can answer for you?
There are some questions there. If you look at the bottom, the Q&A section there, if you click on that, you looks like you got maybe 5 or 6 questions there that people have typed in.
Oh, okay. Where do you buy the unit? Where you would buy the unit is you have to go to your ISP portal, and on the top of your ISP portal, you will see something where you want to purchase software or hardware. And after that, you would follow the prompt for what you want to purchase. Have another question over here. Have you guys had issues with the Cardac 3 Plus utilizing J2534 setup with newer vehicles? As far as setup, no. I will tell you your access is going to be greatly different than the real deal. You may not get actual values, actuations It's usually strictly for just bringing stuff into service. I see Beaker in the house. Yes, I am in the house. Code out the old, I'm not too sure. Does it do ADAS? Yes. Yes, it will do ADAS. Most ADAS stuff is done just with the tool. Certain things you will need a target for. Very, very early backup cameras and like night vision, things like that. And sprinters, some of those guys will need a target. When a target is needed, it will tell you, please use such a tool, whatever. It will use it there. Actually, I've got, while we're on that subject, let me tell you this. If you're wanting to know about what's needed for some ADAS stuff, you can actually go into even the simulation and you can look this up and it will give you even measurements or a part number of a device that's needed. So going through with the workshop information system is invaluable, but sometimes like stuff buried in with, and it's easier just to go in and use your simulation if the car's not there. As long as you got a VIN, or you can kind of pop it in and work forward, or know about what the vehicle model is, you can get yourself through it and save some time there. When will be the next Zoom? Brandon, when's the next Zoom?
All right, so the next webinar that we have coming up will be Tuesday, July 11th. That will also be at 7 p.m. Eastern, which of course is 4 p.m. Pacific time. Please do visit our website to sign up for that, opusivs.com, and click on the training and events tab on the right-hand side.
All right, Matt Batista, I'm asking you a question here. I'm sending it to you. Hopefully you can see it. It says issues with Xentry, talking to an EIS. I need you to elaborate a little more when you can.
Simulation is located on the desktop.
Oh, where is simulation? Yeah, it's located on the desktop in the bottom left there. Oh, whoops. Here you go. Oh, did I hit the wrong one? Sorry. Hold on. There it is. Right there. Oh, it's right next to, sorry, that's diagnosis stop. If you go up one and
It
go over
says
two,
sim.
it
Yeah.
says sim, S-I-M over there. That's where your simulation will be. Is that good, Garrett? Can you hear us? I hope you can hear us. Yes, okay, good. That's for key, let's go. Keys can be pre-programmed. Yes, I said it earlier, Rich. So DOS4 keys can be, well, right, you can so Rich said, what Rich is typing in there, if you order them, again, if it's a DOS4 key, you can't order it. I mean, I'm sorry, you can't program it, but you can order it all keys lost. If you order it as all keys lost, it will come ready to go. And it's not just like a keys to go key, it's DOS4 keys in general that you can get. Typically, they are all keys to go, but at that point, but yes, it was said earlier. What else we got? Oh, yeah. Okay. So, Matt Batista, the only thing to be with 22. So, Matt Batista, it will kick me back out. Okay. So, Matt Batista says, only seems to be with the 2022 and newer vehicles. Ping ID will be successful and it'll kick me back out to the home screen. So, if you are working on a 223 chassis, or a 206, other modules as we keep going, you want to make sure that you get enabled from Mercedes-Benz. Just because you have the factory tool doesn't mean you're going to be able to work on everything without getting turned on. Those cars have secure gateways, and sometimes you can get to other modules, but the EIS you can't get to. Sometimes it locks out the entire car. You want to make sure you're turned on for the entire car. Does that answer you, Matt? I see Rich said he missed that. He's there now. Okay, here's the problem, Matt. Matt's saying that Merrick said he could be good to go. Who does he contact? Unfortunately, Merrick's it. There's also like a diagnosed at Mercedes-Benz. And then you can also go to your ISP guys as well. But your best bet is Merrick, unfortunately, or have him go through support. and creating an excess F case on it. Again, unfortunately, it's hurry up and wait. We've run into the same problem. Mopar Mike, local dealers, to me, won't order all keys lost without the car there. Do you need a D7 or C7? Well, you absolutely need a C7, because C7 is our customer. You know, anybody or independent service provider, D7 is dealer. That's gonna be dealer to dealer is gonna tell you something different. Here's the reason why. Okay. With theft relevant parts and all keys lost and all these things, you can have your LSID like you're supposed to have. You can have your C7 while your forms are filled out, and the parts department will tell you, nope, car's got to come here. They are wrong. They're 100% wrong. Guys don't want to deal with it. And the reason why they don't want to deal with it is because if there's wrong stuff on the paperwork, the dealer can get fined up to about $1 million, or at least $1 million, which for the dealer is not a big deal. Here's the big deal. If they get caught in an audit and the stuff's not right, Mercedes-Benz will refuse that dealership's right to purchase theft relevant parts for up to 1 year. That's the problem. But if they make sure everything's right, it shouldn't be a problem. So I hear you, Mopar Mike. It's not fun.
Yeah, sometimes because of that, because of the strict rules and the risks, the dealers are not very cooperative about theft relevant parts.
Yeah, and they should be. 100% should be. Matthew says use diag.net and post about it, and it's going to get fixed. I haven't tried that. If it works, great. What else we got? Matt Batista, I should be good to go. Yeah, I know, bud. I wish I had better. Mopar Mike, support NASTAF.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, well, again, and I get that, Rich, too. Try and get somebody to read some of that stuff that's at the dealer. I've personally been at dealers where I knew the parts manager, and going into there and you know, worked with him at the time, and had all my ducks in a row. And because his guys didn't want to do it, it was a problem. So again, each dealer is a little different. I feel like as you get more out west, it becomes a problem too. There was a big problem in California and Texas at the time, if you go back like 10 years ago. Anything else? I like how we're getting questions. This is great. I feel like I'm right there with you. It makes me excited. By the way, Andrew, I would just like to say the beards look a little bit better. I don't know why you had to get rid of it. I'm not really excited about that it shaved, but you know, fix that.
One of the things we should mention about this is all of this like independent service portal, everything changed really recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they switched to web-based platform for Wiz and the parts catalog. They used to be in their own separate apps.
Yeah.
So,
It used to be on separate ads. Can you guys still see my screen? Let's see. Is Mercedes-Benz back up? I mean, they're back up. Will this webinar be accessible later? Brendan Matthews is typing an answer, and I can read that. Auto Nation is the problem. Ben Diaz! Say hi, Beaker. Yeah, you got it. Will do. It looks like Mercedes-Benz is still down. Oh, it's just circling, guys. They've been down since 12.
12
Yeah,
to 1.
gateway timeout still. And all I was told was, have you cleared your cache? Yeah. Hurry up and wait.
I'm
All right.
calling out, Dennis.
What's that?
I'm calling out if it's not fixed tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I should also say too, on some of those older cars, there is also a microfiche that you can go through that's really terrible. Surprisingly, all data is actually a better resource just on that older junk. Yeah. Can you send your YouTube channel, please? I think that's to Brandon. Is that to Brandon? Brandon Matthews is typing an answer, and I can see that. Travis, replacing a module with DOS is online required. That depends on what it is. You got to get a little specific with me. What are you changing, Travis?
Like if it's an ignition switch, for example, then
Well,
you don't need
right,
online programming. But if it's an engine module,
right, it would be. So it depends on the module. You know, where do I get ISPP, I, and WIS? You just log on if it doesn't log in. At that point, you'd have to go and hit help, and you'd be logging the ISP portal on the bottom. All right. Anything else, guys? How long does it take Andrew to grow a proper beard? No one's asked that yet. I just realized I have the chat like over here. I'm like talking to a screen.
I think
Looks like
that
we're
may
all
be
good.
it.
Thank you everyone for joining. Don't forget to sign up for the webinar on July 11th. And we'll have another one coming in August as well. So please do check those out on our website under the training and events tab, and then the online training tab.
All right, beautiful. Just real quick, special thanks to some friends here. Number one, the Brandon Matthews, Dwayne Davenport, Andrew Libert here with his beard. I'd also like to say thank you to some guys that are not here. That would be Keith DeFazio and Chris Martino, who's also a bud. Thank all of you guys who've come. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon.